And just tell me, sorry, just go through the Fishers again, just in case I haven't got that. I'm pretty sure I have. Archie Fisher, and you told
Well,
the story of.
the Fisher family, I don't think there was a father, and I've no idea what happened with him.
Mm-hmm.
But he used to live around Woodside,
Mm-hmm.
which was round behind where the folk club was. And Archie was a good singer and a circuit guitar player, singer. And his sister Ray Fisher, uh, Ray wasn't attractive, and she wore these unattractive spectacles, and she was quite, quite nerve-faced, but she had a beautiful voice, and on pure musical talent, she was the best singer. She had an amazing voice. And both of them sung in the Midden. And then Ray went away to a festival down in England, and she married a boy from Northumberland who was a folk singer. And she when she'd been the family had been singing, the mother would come round and listen, and she'd bring a schoolgirl, which was Scylla, and then Scylla later on married a wee American guy, and they started the Singing Kettle, and that had the record for bums and seats. I think I told you about being at Hamish Imlach's funeral in Motherwell, and I met Scylla, and she said, "We'll go for a cup of tea. There's a wee cafe across the road." And a pregnant woman with 2 children, different ages, small, said, "Do you mind, Scylla? It's just a wee lassie. She's recognised you, Scylla." And Scylla went, "Aye, hello, darling, come on over here. I'm Scylla, how you doing? Have you been in my concerts?" "Oh, aye, she's been, but this one, she's still to go." And Scylla said, "And I see you've got another one, the incubator." "Oh, aye, that one. Oh, well, I'll keep the show going." That was the sort of conversation. And she signed a wee note for the kiddies, and that was it. But the turnout at that funeral was terrific, and there was a good camaraderie amongst all the folkies, and of course, always helping along was the organiser of the sort of folk revival where it couldn't. He ended up having putting on folk festivals in Rossi at the Glasgow Fair and stuff like that. We all went down and pitchfork tents and had it in the winter gardens. The pubs in Rossi all got a wee turn. They put a band in at different pubs, different nights. And that was he had a band called the Windscreen Vipers. The Windscreen Vipers.
Oh, I like it, yeah.
That was Danny Kyle.
Mm.
I didn't think much of the band, but they had it anyway. But he
Twin
would
Screen Vipers.
he would do his own thing most of the time, and Danny made a big contribution to encouraging folk music in the whole area, and especially in Paisley, where he came from. And the band that was named after the man who wrote "Will You Go, Lassie Go," to the Braes of Balwhidder, all among the blooming heather, will you go? That was written by, an interesting story, that was written by the Paisley poet, who was, his cottage is still there where he used to do his weaving. He was a weaver. And the Tannahill Weavers folk group was called after him, John Tannahill. And that's the song he wrote. It was adapted a bit, and some of the words changed, by an Irish group. And nobody thought anything of it until Rod Stewart. There was a great guy for covers. Covered the song and thought it's an old traditional song. And the Irish group had made some changes and put a copyright on it. And Rod got a bill for the use of the song. So, there you go. Tannahill Weavers. They played in Midden as well.
Oh.
And then you had a lot. I mean, we had lots and lots. They
Did you ever have any trouble in it?
never.
And any sectarianism or anything like that? Never.
Never.
It was nothing like that, and that was a great
Never,
thing. That it was that unusual for a club then to be?
No,
No, not
because there
those
was
days.
no drink in the club.
Mhm.
You went to a pub next door
Mhm.
and you had your drink at half time and you come back in the club. But the club wasn't licensed. That's how the Cilla Fisher could come as a 14-year-old schoolgirl to hear her brother singing.
And you would get also women going in the audience as well as men.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people met their wives.
Mhm.
Women were just as desperate to grab a man then as they are now, but more so. Because, no, simply because in those days, the man was the breadwinner.
Right. Mhm.
And most women after the war had to give up the jobs, and the men come back for the army, and they went back to tending the house, and it was hard for a woman to have an independent. They never had the opportunity to do anything other than bear children and bring them up. A lot of them would do part-time jobs when the school was on, like cleaning jobs and working in a shop for a few hours, stuff like that. But usually the workers would be young women. And indeed, there was a big whiskey bond up in Springburn, Springburn was a thriving industrial heartland and very socialist. And up in Springburn, what they had was they were building engines, trains, steam engines that would go all over the world, some of them still running, and carriages and everything for the railway, locomotives, a lot. On the other hand, the whiskey was a big thing, and there was a few distilleries, bottling plants up there. And there was one, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but this was a family business, and they had the whiskey bond, and they had one or two pubs, and they deemed as Christians that women should not be anywhere near the alcohol. And it was all young boys that worked in that whiskey bond. And when it came out at night, the street had several hundred young boys who were in the packing hall. I think the pubs in those days would have sawdust on the floor, and there'd be barmen, and the barmen would have on the white aprons, and there'd be smoking in the pubs as well. Teachers' whiskey was the bond that wouldn't allow women to work because of, or going to a pub, because it wasn't Christian, wasn't right for a woman to be involved with any of that stuff. So there were different days, but when we talk about the dance halls were everywhere in Glasgow, everywhere, and you could go to a different dance hall in different nights of the week. Partick's best was the F&F Ballroom in Barton Road. When you went to the East End, you had the Barland, and past the Barland, you had one smaller, which was a Dennistown Pally. That's the one I liked. The girls were all well dressed that went there. There was a couple of thousand, 2,000 or 3,000 youngsters worked in the tobacco factories in Alexandria Parade, and quite a number, over 1,000 women in Collins, the publishers, which were all in that general area. And then you had the Locarno Ballroom at Charing Cross, and round the corner where the motorway is now, you remember a huge flight of steps to another ballroom. I didn't like that one. It had sort of poles, big poles in the middle of the floor holding up the roof. And where a lot of the nightclubs are now, they were dance halls. But they held dances all over the place. You know, the dance halls in Shawlands, every area had dance halls, Clydebank. Wherever you went, you'd find dance halls. The best dance hall in Glasgow was the Greens Playhouse, which I may have told you about. It was on top of, Greens were a show family, and they were amongst the first to bring moving pictures and lantern slides and stuff. And Greens built the biggest capacity cinema in Europe. And that was what was called Greens Playhouse. The cinema held a couple of thousand people or something. It was vast. And then upstairs in a lift, and you got to a dance hall with a balcony and a stage and a sprung floor, a professional sprung floor. And when you went there, you heard the best big bands of the day playing ballroom dancing. Joe Loss. I saw Herb Albert. No, Albert. And the Tijuana Brass. His first name, the Tijuana Brass. A guy you saw in Hollywood movies, the Mexican guy, Exilver Cougar, Chris Barber and his jazzmen, Kenny Ball, Ackerbilk, Geraldo. These were all, huge acts. And they came up there, and it was ballroom dancing. And I went up, I didn't know how to dance it. I said to the girls, "Can you show us?" And I'll say, "Come on." And they would say, "No, that way, right, how's that?" I saw 1, 2, 1, 2 chassis. Said, they would teach you. But it was, and then they had the Savoy dancing. But it went on and on, the number of dance halls there were. And then they had dances in chapel halls and the likes of, what were the old district town halls, like there's Springburn halls, all different halls. So at that time Glasgow was known as the dancing city. And so the first thing people done was dancing. Everybody in Glasgow danced. And they had good variety theatres as well. The Alhambra, where that was in Waterloo Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then the old Empire, it was a bit drafty. And they were a tough audience. If you were no good, you would get hooked. That's where I saw the Scottish performance of Eddie Cochran before he was killed, not long before. And he was with Gene Vincent, Bebop Balulu. And years later, I told Bobby, my son, he was in a Manchester shop, and he found a Manchester gig poster. And he said, my old man saw one in Glasgow. And the guy says, I might have some of them up the stair. Just wait a wee while. I've got it in there. That poster from all these years ago. So we were getting the rock and roll, and we were in there enjoying a real resurgence in music. And